In the previous lesson, we looked at the water treatment process, which is how humans and human settlements take water from rivers and lakes and make it potable, which is essentially safe to drink. So we've looked at the processes involved, passing the water through a treatment plant rather than taking it directly to homes. So you pass it through a treatment plant, a water treatment plant, a number of processes happen to it, and that makes the water safe to drink. In this video, what we're going to look at is what happens to the water after it's passed through the home and it's been used for a variety of purposes. Obviously, once it's been used for a variety of purposes, it's going to be maybe mixed with, it's been through showers and toilets. It's going to have like dead skin cells from showers. It's going to have detergents. It's obviously been through toilets. It's going to have organic matter like feces and urine in it. And these chemicals can obviously have the potential to I suppose, damage the environment. So this is essentially what we're talking about. When water leaves the home again, eventually it's got to find its way back into these water systems, but it's very important that they don't go directly in. And the reason for this is that this liquid that's coming out of the houses is now referred to as sewage. So sewage is the water, or the gray water, I suppose, the black water that's been through homes, has been used and has been contaminated. So that's what sewage is. So in this video, what we're going to talk about is how this water that's leaving systems or leaving home systems is treated for sewage treatment process before being released back into the environment. So this here, instead of a water treatment plant, this is a sewage treatment plant. The idea is then once it undergoes the processes in the sewage treatment plant, now it's safer to be released back into the environment, back into those water systems. So again, it's really important that this step is really important, because if not, then you're potentially releasing disease, you're releasing pollution into these water systems, where obviously downstream, again, there can be further downstream, there can be more houses, right? There can be more houses down here that want to use the water again. So they want to take their water. This is a different town, we say downstream on the river, that want to take their water from the river and the lake. So it's really important that the people up here aren't simply dumping their sewage in, potentially disease, potentially pollutants, and then they're being taken out by another person later on. It's not just about people in houses either, of course, it's also about the wildlife that's living in the water systems. It's very important that we protect that. So what exactly happens in the sewage treatment process? And again, a quick heads up that the big thing here is that we don't mix up these two processes. The difference between the water treatment to make it safe to drink, and then the sewage treatment, which is to treat it after it leaves the home before going back into the water system. Right, so what exactly are the processes involved here? Well, there are three main processes, right? So step number one is a physical, or is what we call primary treatment or primary sewage treatment. Primary being the first type of treatment or the first stage. This is a physical stage. And this kind of shares a little bit in common with the water treatment process, which is why they can be easy enough to mix up, right? And essentially what they use is they use screens and tanks are used to remove and settle particles. So any particles of maybe organic matter, skin and feces that might be in there from showering and toilets, those need to be removed. So again, anything big is going to be removed by the screens, and then the sewage is allowed a time in a tank to settle to the bottom, kind of like in the settlement tank in the water treatment process. The liquid then is going to move on to the second stage. So the solids stay behind in the settlement tank, and the liquids move to the second stage. Now we know how this works, right? If we're following this type of language here, primary comes first, secondary comes next. Okay, so secondary. So the secondary sewage treatment is a biological process. Biological. Now that must mean it's got something to do with living things. And the living things that are going to be involved here are bacteria. So bacteria, and some people will have one of these sewage treatment systems in the back of your garden, in your back garden, especially if you have a kind of a house in the country, a one-off house, and you don't live in an estate. and you might hear it kind of vibrating noise out of coming from this tank that's in the ground in your back garden. And what that is it's an aeration pump. And what that's doing is it's constantly mixing up the sewage by pumping in air into it. So, and what that air is doing is it's feeding these bacteria that are added to the sewage at this stage. So these are aerobic bacteria. They're using air, they're using oxygen. Bacteria feed on and break down organic matter. So this is the feces and the dead skin. And they also might break down any pathogens. So these are other bacteria that are disease-causing ones. So the bacteria that are added to the system here kind of fight them and essentially outcompete them or kill them off. So biological process, aerobic bacteria feed on and break down organic matter and pathogens. These are disease-causing organisms. Okay, and again, this pretty much makes the liquid. This makes the liquid, I suppose, pretty biologically safe after this. Once the sewage has gone through the secondary treatment stage, essentially the water is kind of free from harmful bacteria. It's any kind of diseases that might be caused, like cholera or typhoid, these type of diseases that you might find in countries where they don't have a good sewage treatment system, where this sewage finds its way back into water. People drink this water later on, they get those type of diseases, cholera and typhoid. I'll write those down: cholera and typhoid. Now those diseases largely don't exist in developed countries like Ireland anymore, purely because of this fact that all our sewage is by law has to be treated. So this essentially kills off these pathogenic bacteria in the secondary sewage treatment stage. I suppose moving on to the third process, then the third stage of treatment is, so this is the tertiary treatment, and that is a chemical process. And this is where special chemicals are added to precipitate out any harmful heavy metals that might be in the water from detergents and stuff like that. And also it reacts and binds with two particularly important chemicals. Chemicals. So I suppose this is chemical treatment. So that means we're going to be adding chemicals, chemical treatment. Chemicals are added to precipitate heavy metals, and react with two important chemicals here, react with phosphates and nitrates. In the next video, we'll see a lot more on these two particular chemicals. These are chemicals that would be definitely added to the water, added to the sewage during the journey through your home. So many organic processes, even washing the dishes washing food off dishes down into the sink, down the drain, will add a lot of phosphates and nitrates. We find these chemicals in food, we find them in all kinds of organic things. But the big thing about these things is they are very enriching chemicals. And what that means is if you release them into the water system, if they're still in the water system, they can cause massive pollution problems. We'll look at the specific problems they can cause in the next video. But essentially what they lead to a quick enrichment of the area, which sounds like a good thing, right? More nutrients in the area is a good thing, but it's essentially too many nutrients, and that causes a lot of problems down the road. Today, more nutrients sounds like a good thing, but we'll see in the next video how that actually is a very serious form of pollution. It can lead to complete destruction of water systems like lakes and rivers, right? So we want to remove these processes. So that's the tertiary treatment. It's a chemical treatment. Chemicals are added to precipitate heavy metals and also to react with phosphates and nitrates and remove them from the sewage before releasing it. A couple of things on the details between these three, of these three stages. In an ideal world, all three of these would be done all the time, right? In reality, the first two are always done. These are always done. And this one, the chemical treatment, is often skipped. It's often skipped. And this is obviously a problem then, right? So often skipped. Why is it skipped? Well, it's very expensive. These chemicals can be very expensive, and there are many processes and many water treatments, especially in private homes that aren't in the States, where the first two processes happen in the tanks in your garden, but the chemical treatment is skipped. And therefore, we still have the potential to be adding these two things, phosphates and nitrates, are still getting added to our water systems. That can be a problem, but in an ideal world, we want to be doing all three of these processes. A couple of other things. The first process, if we think about it, involves tanks, settlement tanks. Again, this is going to need to be cleaned. Needs to be cleaned out. Those tanks are going to fill up with sludge, with organic matter, with those heavy particles. So skin, feces, not very nice stuff, right? But again, somebody's job is going to be to get into that tank and clean it out, right? So again, not necessarily a nice job for anyone to have, but it's one that has to get done. So I suppose it creates employment, but it's maybe not everybody's cup of tea of an employment for sure, right? But yeah, that is the sewage treatment process. A couple of other things that we could focus in on for a quick look as well is, I suppose, the different methods of doing this. You will have some homes that are one-off homes. So this is literally where someone builds their own house in the countryside. It's way outside of town. By law, they will have to have their own sewage treatment system. They will have to put that system in themselves and treat their sewage before they can release it into a nearby river or lake. Okay, so this can be very costly. This can add a lot of cost on to building your home. It can be maybe 50,000 up to 100,000 to put one of these in just for the sewage treatment system before you ever build your house, right? But by law, you have to have it. You have to be responsible, and you cannot just dump your sewage into lakes or rivers. I suppose a more efficient way then would be in bigger settlements like towns or big estates, where they can pool that resource. So you can have a number of houses, and those can all feed into one system, right? So these are a network of systems. They share their pipes, and then they all connect up to one sewage treatment plant, a much bigger one, right? Sewage treatment, and they share that resource. So they might have to pay a fee every year for the connection to the sewage and the treatment, but they don't have to pay up front to put that treatment system in. It's a slightly probably more efficient way of doing it, but I guess maybe if you think about what are some problems that might arise here, or here actually, what are some problems that might arise here? Can you think of any problems that might arise? Pause the video, have a little think. Let's do this one over here. A, what are some problems that might arise? Okay, so over here on A, some problems that might arise might be maybe the sewage treatment system might be designed for a house with a certain number of people. But let's say that this person starts to do something different. Let's say that this person starts to do maybe Airbnb. They start to rent out some rooms in a house. Well, now all of a sudden you might have a lot more people than this system is built for. If you have maybe 5 people coming and staying in each room, maybe put bunk beds in or something like that, and all of a sudden you maybe have 15 or 20 people staying in the house on the weekend, this can overwhelm the sewage treatment system because it's really only built for, however many bedrooms there are. Maybe if there's 4 bedrooms, you maybe assume, okay, 2 parents, 3 kids, 5 people. That treatment system is able to handle that, but it's not able to handle 20 people. Or maybe you come and maybe this person builds a big extension onto their house because they got more kids and they don't change the sewage treatment system. Now they've got 7 bedrooms instead of 4. And this treatment system was put in originally for a house of 4 bedrooms with 5 people. Now maybe this is a big family, you have 8, 9, 10 people, right? So this sewage treatment system could get overwhelmed. Too much water, too much sewage going through it, just can't handle it. Same thing over here, this sewage treatment, and a lot of towns and cities suffer from this. The sewage treatment was built many, many years ago for a town of a certain size. And what you get then is you get a bigger buildup of areas. You start to get more houses built. You start to get more houses trying to hook in. And all of a sudden, there you might have an overwhelming of the system. Okay. And you might have to get the system either upgraded or a whole new system. And of course, the problem is if you don't do that, then what you might get is you might get maybe a lot of like funny smells in the town, obviously smells of sewage, where the system is getting overwhelmed, it's overflowing, the tanks are overflowing. You might get a lot of blockages. Yeah, so again, there's pros and cons to both systems. I suppose this one B on the left here is more on the right here, sorry, is technically more efficient. Rather than everyone having their own separate one, but it comes with a cost as well, in that usually they're built for a certain capacity and towns outgrow that capacity often in the end, towns and cities, right? So anyway, that is our processes. I'm just going to go back over here for you guys to see where are we. Here's the question. Here's the sewage treatment. Okay, so if you want there, just have a quick read of this for me and make sure I haven't missed anything, and then make a couple of little notes on this here. And the big thing here is you make a big note in your copy that you're really important. Do not mix up water treatment and sewage treatment. Okay, so what you should be able to do really is you should be able to do a comparison table comparing and contrasting sewage treatment with water treatment and very clearly understanding the differences, right? That's the biggest risk here in an exam question. This stuff is very, very common on the Leaving Cert exam at both higher and ordinary level. And the biggest risk, or the biggest thing I see when I'm marking students' questions here, is that they're asked about water treatment, they're right about sewage treatment, or they're asked about sewage treatment and they're right about water treatment. I understand that some of the processes are similar, but you need to be clear on what's what, okay? Right, guys, I'm going to do some questions now. I'm going to get you to start by doing question 106, writing out that paragraph with some questions in. Okay, so as you can see, that was taken straight from an exam paper. It is an ordinary level question. It's a fill in the blank. It was what, half a question, which is really, really nice, right? But the risk here is if you use one of them wrong, so if you use the wrong thing in the wrong space, then you potentially could get a lot of them wrong, right? So you have to be really careful and really thinking through and make sure you're getting, maybe go to the one that you absolutely know first, you know for certain straight away, and rule it out. Put it in and then rule it out, and then work your way through them. Do the ones you're most sure of first, rather than, you don't have to start at one. If you get one wrong, if you get number one wrong, then you're probably going to get a load of them wrong. So again, you got to be really super careful with those. Right, again, we'll go through these in class the next day. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get you to pause the video and do questions 107 to 114. All right, that's it for now, guys. I'll see you in the next video. We're going to talk about the problems of maybe skipping stages of the sewage treatment or not doing it properly, skipping that third stage, not doing it properly, and also other ways in which pollutants can get into our water systems and the problems that causes. Right, so I'll see you in the next video, guys. Thanks for watching. Like and share if you found it useful. It helps other students find the videos as well. So I'll see you in the next one.